Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen we're making an easy, creamy, delicious raspberry cheesecake. So let's get started. First off, we have to make the raspberry sauce, so grab 18 ounces or a little bit over a pound of fresh raspberries. We're gonna transfer those right into a saucepan, along with 1/3 of a cup or 66 grams of granulated sugar, and a tablespoon of lemon juice. Freshly squeezed, please. So it'll give you some brightness. We're gonna take this to our stove and cook it at medium heat while stirring frequently for 8 to 10 minutes. All right, we're gonna stir this frequently for about 8 minutes, especially while you break the raspberries up. And if you're wondering, I tested this with raspberry jam and it just wasn't working, so a fresh reduction will really give you that beautiful marbling and lovely zing. The consistency is a bit different. If it's easier for you, you could definitely use frozen raspberries for this. Just pop them right into your pan, no need to thaw them out, and you'll have a very, very similar result. While this is cooking away, I'm gonna add 1 tablespoon of water into a small bowl, along with 2 teaspoons of cornstarch to make a slurry that'll thicken this up perfectly. My mixture is now liquidy, bubbly, and saucy, so it's time to reduce the heat to low. Give your cornstarch slurry a mix, because it settles. Now we're gonna pour this in and then increase heat back to medium, and we're gonna stir for about 1 to 2 minutes or until the sauce is thickened. So we need to immediately strain this because as it cools down, your sauce will thicken. Woof, oh my God, it makes such a mess. Good thing I'm wearing an apron. And by the way, if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button. There's 2 new recipes every single week. It's gonna be a little bit of a process to strain this, but just be patient, it'll happen. By the way, this recipe comes from popular demand. I had quite a few requests for a raspberry cheesecake in the comments. If there's a recipe you want, let me know. I'm happy to add it to my queue. Also, a lot of the recipes are on the blog. I just haven't had a chance to make videos for them yet, so preppykitchen.com, search, and you'll probably find it. Might not have a video though. This is really great for smoothies or to mix into your overnight oats. Don't toss it. This is the raspberry sauce that we're gonna be using, so we're gonna set this aside so it can cool to room temperature while we make the other parts of the cheesecake. While the raspberry sauce cools, it's time to make our crust, so preheat your oven to 350 so it's nice and hot, and we're gonna grab 1.5 cups of graham cracker crumbs. I have mine pre-crumbled, but if you only have regular graham crackers, just pop them into a plastic bag, grab a rolling pin, and express yourself, okay? I actually like crushing my own graham crackers most of the time because you get a play of sizes, which can give you a bit more texture. 1.5 cups is 180 grams. And if this seems like a lot of steps to you, you could definitely piece it out. So the raspberry sauce could have been made 2 days in advance when you have some time, and then you make the cheesecake later. 1/4 cup or 50 grams of granulated sugar. Our scale's done. We're gonna mix this up so it's nice and combined. If you want some extra flavor, by the way, you can always sub out like 1/2 cup of the graham cracker crumbs for some really finely chopped toasted pecans or walnuts. Gives you a little bit of extra space. Gives you a little bit of extra flavor and texture. If you don't like graham crackers or you can't find them, you could use Nilla wafers, Biscoff cookies, like anything nice and dry is gonna be pretty good. Even saltine crackers, allegedly. I melted 6 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and we're gonna add that in kind of while stirring, just to not have a giant pool of butter. And if it seems like things are too dry, you can add an extra tablespoon of melted butter at a time. This should be like damp sand, so right now it's looking close, but not really holding together when I press. I'm gonna add 1 more tablespoon of butter. You would also use your clean hands to mix this in. It's more efficient, to be honest. We'll break up all the butter and really mix it in well. Once the butter is all mixed in and the mixture is appropriately wet and will hold together when pressed, we can transfer this into our springform pan and get to compacting. Grab a 9-inch springform pan and you can butter it or give it a quick spray with baking spray. Transfer the crumbs in. Give it a little bit of a shimmy, and now use a flat-bottomed glass or measuring cup and work some of this up to the side before we start pressing. The crust should be 1.5 to 2 inches up the side of the pan, so just press accordingly. The crust is going to insulate the cheesecake a bit while it bakes and help it to not stick, so it doesn't need to go all the way to the top like a pie crust would. That would just be messy when you cut it. Once the crust is where it needs to be, then you can really press down and the compacting will help the crust hold its shape. If your cup has a lip on the bottom, it'll make things really difficult. So make sure your cup is flat. The measuring cup might be best for this. I was like, what's happening? It's not flattening out. That's so much better. Oh my gosh. This is ready to go into the oven, 350 for 10 to 12 minutes or until it's a little bit darkened and fragrant. There you go. Now, in the bowl of your stand mixer or a big bowl if you're using a hand mixer, we're adding 3 8-ounce blocks of cream cheese, and you'll see this is on paper and they look a little bit melty because I microwaved them. It's a cold day and this would have been lump city if I just popped it into my bowl, even though it was on the countertop for a long time. So feel your cream cheese. If it's too hard, microwave it at like 50% for 20-second bursts until it's nice and soft. To my cream cheese, I'm adding 1 cup or 200 grams of granulated sugar. Pour that in. Pop your paddle attachment on, and now we can get to mixing. On medium-low for 2 minutes. You don't want to pump a ton of air into your cheesecake. The little bubbles that form will expand in the oven and give you a cheesecake that's more likely to crack and has a less creamy texture. So low and slow is the way to go here. That being said, you can increase speed to high for 1 second to just shake all of the cream cheese off of the paddle attachment. All right, halfway through the mixing, it's not a bad idea to scrape your bowl down. You're probably gonna have some unmixed cream cheese at the very top and the bottom. One of my favorite ingredients in a cheesecake is sour cream. It'll lighten the cheesecake up and give you a little bit of a contrast from the tang, so it just gives you more flavor. So after 2 minutes, we're gonna add a half a cup of sour cream in. It's like so messy. Help! And that's 120 grams if you're using the scale. Okay, for some contrast, we're adding a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And for some extra flavor, we're adding 2 teaspoons of vanilla. It's time for 3 large room temperature eggs. You don't want any shells in your cheesecake, so I'm just gonna pop these into a separate bowl so I can do a shell check. We're gonna add the eggs in 1 at a time, and you should definitely scrape the bowl down at least once during this process. Let the first egg incorporate before you add the second one in. 2 eggs down, and it's time for a scrape. This bowl is looking a little wild. And if you're wondering where things will hide in this recipe, right here at the top of your paddle attachment, it is the place where cream cheese lumps will come from. Back to mixing, and our last egg goes in. My batter looks really nice. I don't see a lot of lumps at all. So I'm gonna give this one final mix with my spatula, and then it's ready to go. The final scrape down is really just checking the bottom and the side to see if there's any hidden things that didn't get mixed. This looks great though, super silky. My crust cooled ever so slightly, and now we're going to add half of the batter in, not all of it. And grab a 1/4 cup of your cooled reduction. The rules are different for the middle part and the top. So in the middle part, I'm just gonna drizzle the reduction over the top. And now you can use a skewer just to swirl this around. It doesn't matter if it looks pretty or not, because it's gonna get covered up. You mostly wanna make sure that you don't have a giant pool of the raspberries, because that'll change the consistency, it might sink, etc., etc. Now we're gonna add the remaining batter on top, but you don't want to ruin the layer. So carefully and slowly pour the batter starting at the edge and then working towards the middle. At first it'll seem a little intense, but then once you get started, it's actually really easy to cover this up. Now I'm switching to a spoon, and I'm gonna add a little bit less than 1/4 of a cup. It's really up to you, but I want to have a very nice marbled effect, which means you have to have some red and some white. It can't be all red. So little dollops. So I'm starting with this, and I'll add more if I need it. Get a skewer, and we're just going to create that marbleized pattern by dragging it through. So really just swirl it around to create a nice marbleized pattern. It's really easy, but it looks so pretty. And you can clean your skewer off halfway through just so it doesn't make things muddy. This looks nice. I'm stopping here, and you'll notice I have a good amount of this reduction left over. This can get served on the side. You can drizzle it over. You could have it on a little separate container for pouring. You can save it and use it on ice cream. It's really delicious. My cheesecake's ready to go into the oven, 350 for 15 minutes, then reduce to 300, and we're gonna cook for an additional 30 to 35 minutes or until it has just a slight jiggle in the middle. Once that's done, turn your oven off and leave it in there for an hour. Then you're gonna take it out and leave it on the counter for an hour to cool, and then it goes into your fridge for 6 hours. If you just took it out and popped it into the fridge, the cheesecake would definitely crack because of the extreme change in temperature. So leave it in the oven for an hour, it'll finish baking with the residual heat, then take it out to cool, and then chill it so you can cut it and it'll have beautiful little pieces. So much raspberry flavor comes through, and the combination of the zingy raspberries and that creamy cheesecake with the crust is just amazing. I hope you get a chance to make this delicious cheesecake. And if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my cheesecake playlist.